All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We'll get kind of slowly started here as the rest of the crew assembles. We're really grateful that you could all be with us today, and really grateful that Lori Jacobwith could be with us. We would have been able to all be in person together for the Arts Conference out in Rapid City, where it's looking like a beautiful sunny weekend, but we're just grateful that we can get together virtually and still have some good opportunities to learn and be with each other a little bit. So first of all, I need to say a couple of thank yous to some of our partners that have made this possible. The South Dakota Arts Council and the Bush Foundation have both been instrumental in helping us to pivot quickly and offer as many of these sessions as we can to get the state arts community together more often. So I'm sure Lori will go through this as well, but we'd love if you could use the Q&A process of the webinar. There's a button down on the lower portion of your screen. Those questions can then be viewed by anyone so that you can see what has been asked, and we'll start to address those during Q&A, and Lori will keep an eye on those during the session. As you've been doing already, please feel free to use the chat functionality to talk to each other or to talk to any of the panelists with any questions you might have. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Lori to do some introducing. And then, Lori, if it's okay, once everyone's on, right before you go, Jim and Sherry are just going to quick say hello as well.
Sure. Do you want to have them say anything at this point, or are we
Yeah,
good?
maybe that'll go just as well, just to do it now. So how about Jim, would you like to just quick say hello?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to say hi and echo what Andrew has said, and I'm sure Sherry's going to also say the same thing. We miss seeing you all. We were supposed to be together. We've been talking all year about the Arts Conference, making big plans, and hoping and counting on good weather. And of course it is this weekend. So no snow. Last year, this weekend in 2019, the Black Hills was getting a blizzard. So we were hoping we would avoid that, which would have been the case. So those of you who are in the Black Hills this weekend, enjoy the beautiful weather. And I just want to say thank you. Every chance I get to visit with folks from the arts community, the most important thing I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you. You all are doing amazing work right now. You're really the soul and the heartbeat of our state. And these are extraordinary and very stressful times for us. And Arts South Dakota has had the privilege of hearing so many good stories of how organizations across the state have reimagined programming and do what we do best in this field: be creative and come up with new ways of engaging and creating community. So thank you for the work you're doing. Keep on keeping on, and we will get together again. That is in the future. In the meantime, we'll enjoy this virtual environment. Thank you, Lori, for doing this session with us as well today. It's great to have you online.
You bet. My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Jim and Andrew, and especially thank you, Lori, for joining us. I am the Program and Communications Director for Arts South Dakota, and I'm just really excited Lori could join us today on what would have been day one of our State Arts Conference. We were sad to postpone the conference, but glad we can all get together today. We will have the conference October 29th through the 31st, either in person, online, or a hybrid of both. Just know we're watching the CDC recommendations and best practices for reopening, and we are cautiously optimistic. So we miss you, and thank you, Lori, and thank you, Andrew, for taking this webinar on. Yes, thanks.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, folks. Welcome, and thank you to Jim and Sherry, and especially Andrew. I already know that because you're there, I can just relax and do this. And I love what you said, Jim, that these folks, all of you, you are the heart and soul of the state. I believe that too. For me, art is a part of almost every moment of my day. I am not a great singer, but I sing all day long. out loud or in my head. I have artworks all over in my office here. And I love to do crafts and art with my grandchildren. A special thank you to What Happens because of Art South Dakota. I know that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and yet here we are, social distancing in a whole new way. So thank you to the team, but also thank you to all of you for what you do and how you do it, and whether you've stopped doing it or not. I get it. There's different decisions we're making these days about how we're getting our work done. What I like to do is know you a little bit better before I dive in and tell you about myself. So would you please type in a word that describes your mission? When we're doing this in person, I don't allow any duplicate words. I will be lenient today since I can't control what words you're going to type in, but I'll read off some. And as you're typing in, I'll tell you a little bit about my background, and then I'll come back and read what you wrote. I live in Minneapolis. I have lived here most of my life. I have 5 years that I spent in Phoenix, Arizona, but the weather didn't agree with me. I didn't have enough seasons to enjoy. I've been in the social sector for many, many years. I worked with Arts Lab from Arts Midwest for a number of years before that program had changed. And I have been executive director, development director, board member. I told my parents when I was a kid, I love to help people. So maybe, because my family was involved in politics, maybe I should be governor of Minnesota. You can imagine a 9-year-old telling their parents that. And also I love to travel. And so I said, or I'll be a flight attendant. Well, here I am many years later. And when it's not a pandemic, I'm traveling a lot around the world to help people. I help people like you to share their message powerfully. And I'm a collector of what works. So you're going to get a chance to hear and see some things that are working out there in fundraising right now for all kinds of organizations. Let me read some of the words we have. Joy, love, inspire, storytelling, enrichment, encouraging, equity, congregation, innovation, enriching, traditions, healing, resource, enhancing, community, prevention and awareness, aspiration, educate, building, collaborative, empowerment, cultivation. One of the things I do is I ask you to share just one word on purpose, because people make up what they think you do and how interesting or not you might be based on the title of your organization or what they know about you. My goal in helping you with your communication is to have people want to ask you questions. So I'm going to ask a few of you before we get started and dive into our actual agenda that I have for you. The first question, and Andrew, if you'd bring up the poll, that would be awesome. The first question I have for you is, I know the names and most recent gift amount of our top 50 to 100 donors. Yes or no? The next question is for you. We are personally connecting with our top donors during the pandemic. Personally meaning phone calls, emails, or texts that are just to them. And the third question, we plan to hold or have already held a virtual fundraising event. Yes, no, or undecided. So go ahead and answer those. Let's give it another second or two. Andrew, if you can see if we've got pretty good participation, you can go ahead and share the results.
Great, we're getting about 60% have voted, so we'll wait just another second here.
Okay. Type away in, folks. And we'll get to hear what you're doing, how you're doing it, and that'll help me know what are some of the points that I want to cover a little more deeply during the session today. All right, let's go ahead, wherever people are. So we've got, okay, 66% of you I get to ring the bell for you. You know the names and gift amounts of your top donors. Love it. The next question, we're personally connecting with folks. Just under half of you are. Now might be the time to reach out to folks, and I'll show you why. And then looks like a lot of you are undecided about holding a virtual fundraising event. So well, let's chat. Let's talk about what it is that you can be doing, what it is that is happening, and what are donor attitudes right now. The thing that I know is we can take a pause, or we can stay in that panic mode. And the reality is, beginning days, a lot of us were in panic mode. The plan A has probably been in your rearview mirror for maybe weeks now. We might be on plan G or F. I have a feeling because of so much uncertainty, by the end of this year, we'll probably get to Z and then have to start all over again. So we get to choose our reaction, right? When we feel anxiety, we are less flexible. And that goes for our staff, our board, our volunteers. I know some of you are tiny but mighty organizations. Others of you have more staff. No matter who it is or how big you are, we still get to choose. We still have some of the same choices. So to pause and think through, how are we letting folks know what's going on, that we're still here, that our revenue sources have changed. People are giving, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. So how to prepare by taking a few minutes or an hour or a couple of teleconferences, or goodness gracious, add another Zoom call to your day, but plan. And I have a nice shiny Excel spreadsheet worksheet that I worked with an organization to create that you can download to get you started. The most important thing is that we accept that there's a lot we don't know, and we won't for a while, and to be nimble. And then make positive language choices. I was watching an Instagram post from Elizabeth Gilbert a few weeks ago now, closer to the beginning of all of this. She was making her way home to be here in the United States from some travel, international travel, and she said she noticed as she was talking and starting to record a video, she was using a lot of dramatic language, and it was heightening her own sense of fear. And so she chose to re-record her message. She said, folks, let's choose words that are factual, grateful, calm, and be a part of that pausing for people, so that we're really taking a moment, we're breathing. And then I'll tell you, you've got this. I'll give you some reasons why you've got this. Here's what our agenda is. I'll talk a tiny bit about what I call pivot fundraising. And then what are the 3 most important actions any nonprofit organization should be taking right now? Data, we're going to talk about how it's your new best friend. It always is your best friend, but it's even more your new best friend now, whether you have an Excel spreadsheet as your database or a CRM, contact resource manager program. Choosing powerful language, what are donor attitudes since the pandemic began? I've got examples, many from your state, and then we'll give you some time for some Q&A. So pivoting, this is from the Imagine Museum. It is an old post that they had on social media. I think it was Instagram, actually. Eric says, it's a change in strategy without a change in vision. Well, that's kind of what we do when the pot on the wheel doesn't work. We know we're going to make something, but we change our strategy a little bit about what we're creating. Pivoting in basketball, you get to keep one foot on the floor, but you have to move in some direction to actually take action. That's what we're doing. My definition of pivot fundraising is conversations, actions, and movements fundraisers make, you all are making, with grace and ease, at least to the outside world, to raise money in a previously unimaginable direction. I will show you examples today of some excellent communication, some okay communication, and then I'm going to give you some of what I believe are the exact ways we can and should be utilizing some of that communication. I'm happy to provide you, Andrew, with the link to the post that talks about pivot fundraising. It's on my website, on my blog page. So to get us in the right mind frame, I want to read this quote I shared a few weeks ago on my blog. This is from Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She wrote, "Women Who Run with the Wolves. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul to assist some portion of this suffering world will help immensely. It's not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th gale." Thank you for letting me read that to you. It calms me just to say the words. So what are those actions? Let's dive into what they are. They are to communicate, to dispel myths, and to listen. So communicate. What should we be communicating? Well, our job more than ever is to make the complex simple. Through the stories you share, the art you share, the explanation of how you're receiving funding or not. I went to almost everyone's website that I had as of Monday, who was registered for today. And I learned some things. There were some things missing for me, though, from websites and social media posts. One thing that I ask before you write anything or gather or send out any e-news or phone someone right now and all the time, but especially right now, what is it that we want people to feel? What is it we want people to do? And by when do we want them to do it? I will say this many times today. People are giving. So don't stop asking. Here is my very short, easy to implement donor communication checklist for what to be doing right now. Thank people for what they've done in the past. Report back to them on how you've been using their advice, their contributions, or what they gave in kind. Check in with people. For the first time, I do a session like this almost every day right now, because there's been so many groups out there wanting this information. I had someone 2 days ago ask me, "How are you, Lori?" It took me by surprise. I haven't had anyone ask me that other than family. So it was lovely. Check in with your supporters, your volunteers. Have it feel personal. Share mission moment stories and your money story. We'll talk about that today. And then provide options. Even if you're closed and we cannot come and see your art, gather with you, or do whatever it is you're normally doing at this time, what are the options I have to support you? Remember, fundraising is fulfilling the aspirations of your supporters. I have aspirations for how I want our community and our world to look. And if I don't get those opportunities or no one's asking me, I go elsewhere. People are giving. So I'll just read this list quickly, but there is a bit.ly link here so you can go read the study later. Donor communication, this is what they're looking for, that they understand, they perceive that you're producing some outcome. Is it that you build community better than any organization in our area? Is it that when you communicate with me, I feel that joy? I feel as though I learned something special? Is it that I receive a timely thank you and I know that my gift matters? Do I have the opportunity to make my views known to you? Some of you have some very active social media posting, and I grabbed a few screenshots of them. People are telling you what they're feeling. They're thanking you for things because you're providing value to them even while you're closed. people feel that they're a part of an important cause. I want to say something that I'll probably say a couple times today. If you think your mission is less than valuable and important right now, please do your darndest to remove that thought. As a healthcare worker comes home, they listen to music. As my family has played games, we've done crafts. There is so much respite, joy, support that is needed right now, and there is nowhere else to get it but from all of you. I feel as though when I connect with you, my involvement is appreciated through those social media posts, the phone calls, the emails, the letters in the mail. And I know exactly who benefits from my gift of time, talent, stuff, or money. Now, I'll warn you, not all of the examples today are from the from the arts arena. Next one is a little bit of health and human service. So I was looking at that slide already. But I wanted to share some of these examples to have you see what kind of communication is going out, how quickly it's going out, and then adapt it for your own use. So this is from my client, Volunteers of America in Northern California and Northern Nevada. Their main office is based in Sacramento, and then they have one in Reno. Their state went to shelter at home before the rest of the country did. And their orders happened on a Monday. This email was sent on Friday the 13th after Christy, their development person, and I worked about, an hour and a half to craft it. We made sure something went out very quickly so that volunteers, staff, anyone who was in their database got word of what was going on. So it didn't say Dear Lori on purpose because we didn't have names of everyone, but it did say in the first sentence and that first paragraph as one of our most important supporters. So I knew it was for me, right? And then we told people quickly that the May 7th event had been postponed. We've now rescheduled it to a virtual event happening in 3 weeks. Then we told the money story, that their gap in government funding left a gap of $2.95 million and helped 16,000 people, and that I make their work possible. This language is a lot of you and your language. Now, your gap in revenue might be because you've got fees for service, you've got ticket sales, it might be growing. This organization has added an additional $900,000 just since this email was written. So they're now sharing that increased dollar amount, and their fiscal year ends on June 30th. They have raised some of this, but not all of it. 21st century communication, gosh darn, texting works, folks. I was going to attend an event in Shreveport, Louisiana, a fundraising event on April 21st. This text came to me on Monday, March 16th at 8:30 in the morning to tell me and my spouse that the event was being moved to July. They had over 800 people registered for this event. They had table hosts, so all the table hosts got a personal text. They didn't text every single person because this came from Lisa, my contact there, but they had texted some VIPs, all of the table hosts, and then asked those of us who were bringing guests to share that text with others. Within about 5 minutes of receiving that text, I also noticed that I received an updated calendar invitation. They had sent out calendar invites to those of us who had registered, but they automatically updated that. So it moved from April 21st to July 28th. All I had to do was click yes again. And I already knew it was on my calendar. I was good to go. So updating quickly if you're changing something, calendars, items, oh my goodness, they work, folks. People use calendars a lot more than you think. So if you haven't figured it out already, I believe that success is something really critical. It is what we say, how we say it, and where and when we say it. Communication is something that we have an ability to change. We have some control over it. So this next example is, there's a little story behind it. It is not an arts organization, but I've got plenty of arts examples, so hang on. This email I did not receive. It went to my sister, and it did say Dear Lisa at the top. I just covered it up. And she is a teacher. And so on March 16th, on that Monday, when sort of all hell broke loose in our city, in our state, and we were figuring out what to do and schools were canceled, she called me at the end of the day and she said, how's your day? But I got this email I want to tell you about. In my pile of just stuff that barraged me, she said there was a subject line that made me open the email. And she said, I just scanned it. Our family has supported this organization before. I knew exactly what to do because it told me what a family of 4 needs. They could feed a family of 4 for $100. So we chose to feed a few families of 4, and done. I feel like I made a difference even though today was so chaotic. Well, I said, who was it? And she said, Interfaith Outreach. I said, oh my gosh, last week they finished their storytelling course with me. And we spent a whole segment talking about how do you put a subject line in so that people know exactly that they have to open it. Then when she gave, and I went to the donate page too, because we had worked on it, we knew exactly what the money was for. And we knew that when we gave $1, they could have a value of $9 more. The largest amount was listed first, only 3 giving levels, but I knew what would happen with each of those giving levels. They raised money kind of hand over fist, and they were literally on the phones talking to each other and in different meetings, and the development person got a text from the food bank and said, someone just dropped by a $6,000 check. What are you guys doing in there? We've never had that happen before. Updates about how you're doing, how I'm doing. This is from Lutheran Social Service, but I put it in because it talked about what their volunteers are doing, not just for them, but for other people, delivering groceries, making masks, providing support for any of their team. And then I loved how they wrapped it up. You can pray, you can serve, you can give. It wasn't about a big ask, a big demanding ask, but it had a button to make a gift. And they've been sending out inspirational messages like this a lot. So this was from Red Cloud Indian School. I love this post. It's from April 24th. It said, a message to our families from our teachers, have a great weekend. I loved it. It got some interactions, but here's what I want you to get. I want it to have some shares and even some more comments. So tag your board members when you post something that's important. Tag each person that you have in a picture here. Have me understand as a board member, as a volunteer, even as an artist, that part of my job is to be an ambassador and to share the messages that I'm seeing that inspire me. So pop-ups are another way of raising awareness and communicating. I was honored to do a session for 200 staff from our National Park Service from around the country. And one of the things the Park Service had done very quickly is to create a pop-up on their website that took us to a separate page with all kinds of resources for kids learning at home. If people were missing the parks, it had pictures, just updates so that I understood they were still here for me, even though I couldn't go visit them right now. Visuals matter. Our brains process the picture before we process the words. You are about visuals. You have beauty. You have emotion packed into almost everything that you think, feel, and do. And I'm looking for that as the person who has supported you and volunteered with you and come to your performances. The next thing we want to be doing right now is dispelling myths. And there are myths. People make up things about you. You've made up things about you that you're perpetuating. So rather than have people continue on with those myths, share the facts and share language or stories or photos or live events, very short. Our attention span is short, right? This is a long time that you're going to be with me today, so I promise I will keep it interesting. Events can share what your financial story, your money story is, but it should be a 15 to 20 minute event with lots of testimonials and artist stories. Be a source of truth and calm. What does it truly take to do your work? What's open? What's closed? How can donors and volunteers help right now if they can? And be sure and reference sort of the official word, the CDC or the World Health Organization. If you're having a connection with your team in some way, make sure to share it with us. This was from the YMCA Greater Des Moines just a couple of days ago. They have all of their instructors doing things virtually for shorter, so 5, 10, 15-minute workouts. This was a yoga class that they were sharing online. Do you have painting classes online? Do you have music classes online? And of course, visuals and words married together that are beautiful can be a source of truth and calm. This was a gorgeous picture on the Grand Canyon Conservancy Facebook page, but the words below it said, "Every sunrise brings the promise of a new dawn," from Ralph Waldo Emerson. 158 shares, folks. I want that for you. I want people to be spreading the word about how important you are, what it is you do that's important. And you might be thinking, well, we can't ask for money right now. We shouldn't be asking for money right now. People are fatigued by being asked for money right now. One of the myths I want to dispel is that there is such a thing as donor fatigue. I don't believe that there is. I believe that there is uninspiring or demanding message fatigue. If you're begging me to help you, those words are not inspiring, not connecting. They're not going to drive me to want to give. We should be asking for money right now, but make the language be all about me, Lori. Thank you, Lori, for what you've given in the past. I got a phone call yesterday. I had just sort of taken my work hat off and sat down and was resting, and it was Julie Guidry. I'll talk about her in a few slides from now. She is the founder of a nonprofit organization in the Twin Cities, and she said, "I just wanted to check on you. You had a blog post yesterday that touched me. How are you?" Well, I give to this organization regularly because they stay in touch with me. They have me feel great, and I know that why they're raising money is so that they can deliver programs and services that are helpful, but that they are building a vision of how I believe the world should be as an equitable and just place for everyone. So what are the myths you might have? You're fully funded by the government, maybe, maybe not, or you get all that money from some grant that you received. Clients or artists only use you one time. People only come to your location one time. We don't need you right now because everything else is more important. That's a message you might be telling yourselves. So I want you to dispel that myth for yourselves and for others. Go ahead and type in right now, what is it that you have a myth that is perpetuated regularly about your organization, about your mission? What do people make up about you, your work, how important or non-important it is? I'd like to hear a few of those. I know that passionate arts supporters truly believe that art is important all the time. That our community is too poor to support the arts. People think art is elitist. So there we go. There's the dichotomy of the two thoughts, one end and the other end. If you're my passion, I will find a way to give something. I might not be able to give financially right now, but I may be moved and inspired to tell someone else about what it takes to do your work, and that someone else might support you. We're only there for those that need assistance. We are here for everyone needing assistance, not just information. Arts councils are only for artists. Yeah, so how can you dispel that? This is the time that people are on their social media scrolls way more than other times. Be the message that pops through the noise. Let's see what else. We've got elitists. We don't need new donations because of that big donation. Yep. Our season was postponed and education programs on pause, so we don't need operating support. So it's really then our job as staff, as volunteers, as the leadership of the organization to make sure that you put a face on donor impact and you let me know what it takes to make that happen. You still have rent to pay. You may still have, you have furloughed some of your staff if you have staff. So what is it taking to do your work? Donors are wanting to know that. I say these are mission moments. A story is a mission moment. There's an organization in Nebraska, the American Midwest Ballet. I've had the honor of working with them now for a while, and they are making sure that we understand what their work is and why it takes money to support it, even though they're closed right now. Happens to be their 10-year anniversary. So what they're doing is they're calmly, quietly letting us know how important community is. I'm going to share just a tiny bit of this video. It's too long to share the whole thing, but I clicked on the link, because it's American Midwest Ballet, and I know how I feel when I get their messages. I always feel great. And I was busy, but I clicked on it anyway, and this looked like Dorothy. My favorite song happens to be Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That's the song I walked down the aisle to get married to. So let's take a listen for just a second. All right.
Hi, my name is Erin Alarcon, and I am a company dancer with American Midwest Ballet. What has impacted me the most over the last decade has been becoming a part of this AMB community. I've formed friendships and relationships with not only the dancers, but also our artistic staff, our costume department, the technical crew, our supporters, the students who are in our production, as well as their parents who help out backstage.
So then we get a chance to see backstage.
So we're here at the photo shoot for Wizard of Oz, and it's been about 5 years in the making. So it's really exciting to be here, but it's a little bit surreal. It doesn't feel like it's happening yet, but I'm really excited to see everybody getting in.
So you can take a look if you want to later. What I loved about it, eventually in the video, I got to see just before she opened a door, I got to see her face. It might have been dress rehearsal, but I got to see her poise and her presence. It made me have a moment of, I was in the theater, even though they're closed. So mission moments create unforgettable emotional connections and empathy about what does it take to be an artist? What does it take to, what do I give up? What do I have to be nimble about? How do I scrape together the dollars to support this? Empathy should create emotional connections that are positive and good. We get to understand what it means to walk in that person's shoes. Sympathy are not the stories I look for you to tell ever. Sympathy is a distance creating emotion, and that is not honoring of your mission, nor of the beneficiaries of your work. So listening, the third and most important thing to be doing right now, which you are, all of you, thank you. There are many people and ways that we can be listening to our staff, our clients, our donors, our volunteers, your family, most importantly, yourself. How are you taking a little tiny bit of time to support yourself? I have put meditation back into my life. I have taken a reminder out of my own playbook to schedule in my exercise bike time in the morning, whether it's raining or not. The thing about listening is it allows people to feel some sort of connection to what's going on for you. So you can use surveys, you can have open-ended questions. The thing about listening is, there's talking and listening. And some folks listen just so they can wait for the pause in the conversation or the pause in what you're reading to insert something and barrage you with information. Or there's listening that actually causes me to learn something about you. So remember that viruses might be contagious, but so is fear and panic and hysteria and calm and kindness and love and joy. And the things you provide as your mission have never been more relevant, have never been more necessary and welcome. We are hungry for them. If you haven't seen this, you'll want to copy it and do it yourselves. If you have seen it, bear with me for a moment. So this is Jennifer Garner's Instagram page. She talks about, and at the very beginning of this, when things started to get canceled, she said, "This time of year has so many people from preschoolers to professionals working their tails off to perform. And now the games, the meets, the recitals, the productions, big and small, are shut down. Well, the show must go on, people. Break out your oboes, belt out your torch song, run in place. I don't care. Show us what you've been working on and we'll show it to the world. Use the hashtag, hey, Jen, look at me, because I want to see." An entire page, a website has been created to show all of the posts. There have been so many. What is the hashtag you could use to have people tell you what they're doing, to have art alive in their day right now, to be fulfilling on the mission that you have of building community and bringing joy? This is a client of mine here in the Twin Cities, Heart of Dance. They have these lovely posts by their community. It is Quarantine Tango, and it is hashtag Quarantine Tango. So we've got just young Lily here showing the joy of partner dance. We've got Dee Dee being very silly in her own home, showing us dressed to kill here, how to do quarantine alone. Whatever it is you're doing, the folks at Lemon Public Library, I loved this. These are ways of engaging your folks. What are people reading? What are you doing to break up your day? What I also want to know, though, is what does it financially take to fulfill your mission? That's your money story. We're going to talk about more of that in a minute. And then this that I read partially this morning, but I bookmarked it so I can go back and read it again. 12 Ways the Humanities Can Improve Your Life from South Dakota Humanities Council. I have a feeling the ways that humanities can improve my life aren't just during quarantine. They are going to be always. So think about what messages you can be sharing and what is it that you do already that is your mission that you want to just remind us, and then let us know how many dollars, how many volunteers it takes to make that happen. So for just a minute, I will talk about the very sexy topic of data, donor data. And as I said, whether you have an Excel spreadsheet or you have the biggest, shiniest donor database there is, or something in between, you want to keep your data clean. I got an email this morning from a very large company that I purchased my subscription database from. And they said that a large percentage of my donor database, or my customer database actually, has not been opening my emails over the last 60 days. And they have a tool to have me connect with those folks to see if they want to still get my email. I also dedupe regularly. I make sure that if people are spelling their name a little differently, or if they've got two emails, they're all in the same record. I do that because I don't have a team to do that. So that's what I do when I watch the news some nights. I also segment some of my data. I want you to segment your data. Take a look at who are your most valuable supporters. They may be your artists, your longtime donors, they're your longtime volunteers, the people we just can't lose track of or lose their passionate support. So some of the segments, these are all donor focused, just so you know. Some of the segments to choose from: the long term, whether they've given $50 or $5 million over the last 3 to 5 years. Is there a special message to go out to say, we are so sorry we canceled the season. We wish we didn't have to. Here's what we're doing to prepare for either virtual or in person based on what happens in the world. and have there be a giving button. Make a gift of some kind in every message you're sending out. Monthly donors, corporate sponsors, walkathon or whatever, artathon. We have Art-A-Whirl here in the Twin Cities virtually this weekend. Active social media supporters. Do you notice which donors are tagging and or commenting on or liking your social media posts? And do you note that in your database or on that Excel spreadsheet? And then tag them when you want them to see something important. For sure, your board members. And then what new donors have you received in the last 90 days? Make sure that you're noticing them. Here's why. New first-time donors, you have a 20% retention rate to keep them beyond this year, unless they give again. And then this goes up. Our average retention rate across all sectors is less than 50%. It's less than 45%. Monthly giving, the fastest growing way to fundraise right now, you have a 90% retention rate. People are staying in touch with you by giving automatically, and you're staying in touch with them by reaching out. And goodness gracious, couldn't we use this device for what it was used for? My recommendation, if you're staying in communication with folks and you're listening to folks, is that you pick up the phone. First-time donors who get a personal thank you within 48 hours. Personal could be a text. It could be an email, though I'm not a fan. We're getting a lot more email right now. A phone call, a voicemail message. When they get that message within 48 hours, they are 4 times more likely to give again. And when a thank you call comes from a non-staff person, from a board member or a volunteer to that first-time donor, within 24 hours, their next gift, because you're going to ask again in 4 to 6 weeks, their next gift can be up to 40% higher. So there's some of you who said you have events, you do things. Type into the question box here, yes or no. We make thank you calls to donors on a regular basis. Yes or no? I'd like to see what you're doing. Barrage me with your answers. Love it that there's always someone who comes in quickly. Starting, good. I like that you're starting it, Linda. You know, it can be part of a board meeting. You can be on Zoom, and if they're not on their phone already, you can take 5 minutes, or you can be on Zoom, take a 5-minute break. Everybody has their donor list that they're calling. They get off the call, the Zoom call, and then they get back on once they've completed their calls. So personal notes is great. A phone call that is different than the kind of phone calls we're normally getting is still valuable. This is based on donor research that's done every single year of 25,000 donors in the US and Canada. So how do we keep track of all this? This is a donor engagement strategy downloadable document that the folks in Sacramento and I created together. We had a number of ways we could be engaging. We chose to not use all of them. We talked about group size, what format would we use, what was our objective, and then what were we going to be doing and by when. So here's the link to download. Notice it's a bit.ly link. So that means it's case sensitive, and this is all lowercase. So FR planning COVID-19, no hyphens, no underscores, nothing like that. If you make it better, which I have a feeling you will, send me a copy of yours. What are your contingency planning, your donor engagement strategies that you're following? Let's talk about language for a minute. I want you to stand out. You want people to give. You want them to do what everyone else wants them to do. So how do we simplify the complex? How do we show up and have people pay attention? Our messages should teach something, inspire in some way, and have a call to action, even if it's a very subtle call to action with just a give now button. I would like you to paint a picture of one person in just about every single communication that you are sending, or that you're posting, or that you're putting in your e-news, or when you're talking to people voice to voice. I'll tell you, I had to hunt to find a potter, a picture of a potter in South Dakota. I went to many of the websites of people I have on the list here, and I couldn't find a picture of an artist. I could find their art, but I couldn't find a story. This is Dave Hubner of Dakota Stoneware. He was highlighted on the South Dakota Public Broadcasting blog. I want to know a little bit about those people. What are they doing? How are they doing? We have a number of folks in the Twin Cities. Of course, I know artists in the Twin Cities who aren't doing so well. And so some folks, instead of giving to the hospital or the nurses, are giving to artists because that's who they believe in. Voice tone matters when we're talking voice to voice. Well, context and word choice matters when we're crafting our emails and our blog posts and copy on your website. So words that have a feel of duty and obligation are not connecting. Donate, attend, help us, give more, give again. I invite you to use inspiring communication. Invest in our community. Invest in the future of our community. Here's a face of your impact. Let me show you what it looks like. Here's who your gift will help. It is your grandchildren when they can come back to the Historical Society or to our art center for our classes. We're looking for long-term partners, not just the people who will give once. In fact, if you'll give once, thank you so much. We prefer that you decide to support us long-term. Scarcity is a little more stealth. The language of scarcity is words like, it's really hard right now. We have donor fatigue in our community. We can't ask people to give again. We don't have enough people in our community who have money. They won't do what we're asking them to do. My board won't do what we're asking them to do. I invite you to watch this language. I actually keep a hashtag list when I meet with an organization and tell them how many times they use words like this. What if you use possibility language instead? We're learning how to talk about our work during this time so that we can inspire you to remember us, and if you have the ability to support us. Because what if we could be as strong at the other end of this as we were when this all started? We're looking for the very right people who want to be our long-term partners. We hope that you're one of them. And it is okay to talk about the money. If I don't know that you require more, that it takes more than what you have right now, I do not give to you. So if you look handled or you sound handled, you have a beautiful website, or you're simply not asking, you have a gap in what is required to do your work. So tell us about that gap. What is the amount between where you are today and reaching your annual fundraising goal and the amount you've raised so far this year? That, folks, is your money story. This is from Upstream Arts, my favorite arts group who implements every fundraising tactic I've ever created, thought of, or shared from some other organization. They put many years ago in their e-newsletter, here's where we are today in our funding, here's where we have to be. And they called it their funding gap update. They still do this. They don't necessarily use this visual all the time, but they do not say, we need your money. They say, here's what it takes to do our work. And here's where we're at. The most disengaging words you can use is help us with our goal. You and your isn't in there anywhere. And I want you to use more you and your language on your websites and in your posts and in your asks of me, of your supporters. You don't necessarily understand this now, but as you start to change it, money will show up when you simply change your language, even if you're not asking as often. Clear money stories explain how you help one person. Who are the beneficiaries of your work? And it might be that I am, my family is, or the arts community. How are we making progress together towards the next milestone? What does it take to do our work? And then share inspiring, very specific relationship building, one-person examples. And goodness gracious, let's be creative with our donate buttons. This is the one that Upstream Arts uses. Invest in creativity and inclusion. And they always have a piece of art from one of their clients that is next to that button so it stands out. Thank you for changing lives. Make a gift. Give water to 2 people. Here's the amount. So instead of donate, you helped nature today. You helped an artist today. I care. I support my community. I'm hungry to help. Whatever it is, what words will cause people to take notice and say, wait a minute, what is that button for? Oh, it's to give right now. Fear makes bad fundraising. If you're going silent right now, please turn up the volume on what you're doing. Even if you are a volunteer-run organization or you have 40, 50 staff, I want to know if I'm a supporter of yours. Use a lot of you and your language. Our fear causes us to be extra careful in our communication, so there's nothing urgent to do right now. And it weakens your mission, it weakens the message, and it weakens the connection you're making with your supporters. Lynn Twist has written the book, The Soul of Money, that I love a lot. She talks about fundraising being the privilege of facilitating the reallocation of the world's financial resources away from fear and towards that which we love. People love what you do. You love what you do. Then allow us to understand what it takes to support you and make a difference right now, today. Donor attitudes, we are researching, folks. We are, both in the US and in the UK. Just about 3 weeks ago now, Mark Phillips was on a webinar that I attended, hosted by the nonprofit Storytelling Conference, with research from Blue Frog. And that research is qualitative, so it goes deeper with less people than a quantitative study. But they have talked to people in February, in March, and April, same people, and they will talk to them again now in May and June. They're asking questions, really simple questions like, what have been the main issues you're thinking about? How is the pandemic influencing your giving? And in what role, if any, has the work of the charities you love had in how you're giving right now? So what I'll tell you, Mark did is he created this visual that really helped me. He said in the first couple of weeks, people were feeling that chaos and uncertainty big time, and they just wanted to do something. So they're throwing $50 here and $100 there. They're giving. And then we're starting to feel helpless. So not only do we buy a lot of toilet paper to control something, but we're checking in on the organizations that we've been supporting because they're checking in with us. They're showing up on our social media feed, or they're in our inbox. People have decided that helplessness they want to augment and change by being a part of the solution, or managing some guilt that they have that they are doing. Most of us aren't talking about the people that our donors want to be hearing about. They want to know how your beneficiaries are being impacted. How are artists doing in our community? What could we be doing to help them? What are your staff? How is this impacting your staff? People are giving to unrestricted operating a lot right now. So communication that is building community, even if we can't be in our community, is what your donors want. So we want to know what we can do. Can we volunteer? Can we give money, even if it's a small amount? You want to share these stories that build community, about artists, about people you're serving, your staff, how life is affecting you. You can show a selfie of yourself on your 17th Zoom call of the week, but that you're working to keep the schedule, even if it's a virtual schedule, updated. I love the posts from some of the libraries and how you're keeping children and families engaged. What wins, contributions, updates do you have to share? And then talk about volunteers doing amazing things for your organization, if that's happening. And I'll tell you more about Jack Black in just a moment. And for goodness sake, please share stories that are your money story. Tell us what it takes to do your work. Virtual donor meetings. This is a client in Shreveport. This is Chuck telling the money story to the folks on the call. These are donors and volunteers And there were about, I believe, at that moment in time, 22 people. But this grew to a group of about 47 from all over the United States. People showed up. You know, some of you have supporters from around the country and around the world. Don't hesitate to pop on virtually and give us 15-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute updates. One of the volunteers who is posted on the picture here talked about who's being impacted, how they're having kids do some of the after school crafts and game playing and dropping things off for families. Talk about yourselves as staff that you're still here. While this was from a CASA organization, court appointed special advocates in Los Angeles, this was one of the staff saying, we're still here and I'm worrying about our work and how we aren't able to do it in the same way, but you can make a contribution. So we're strong. Here's the Jack Black story. So the folks at Upstream Arts, they provide support for people with very severe disabilities. Many can't speak, some can't hear, many are wheelchair bound. These are children all the way on up to seniors. So Wheeler in the Sky is an organization that is small, a tiny but mighty organization. And they decided to help Upstream Arts because Upstream Arts had to bring all their work virtual and they couldn't be in classrooms. So these severely disabled people with severe disabilities, I apologize, had to start doing their work from Zoom and Skype and all different ways. And Wheeler in the Sky decided to have performances online 3 nights in a row. And each night, as people paid to see the performance, the money would go to an organization, and Upstream Arts was one of them. Jack is in an acting group with the gentleman, Ruben from Wheeler in the Sky, and he saw this was happening, and this is what he did.
Hey, what's up? It's Jack Black. Giving a shout out to Upstream Arts. Incredible organization, bringing art to kids and adults with disabilities in the Twin Cities. I love it. Look at what you guys do. Painting, theater, dance, music, all of it stimulates the brain and creates joy and enhances these kids and adults' lives, and in so doing makes the world a better place. You rule.
So I know we can't all get to Jack Black, but what I explained when I posted this, actually I'll read it to you. I said, okay, when you're working hard to get noticed and having to start doing your work virtually, but you invite cool folks like Wheeler in the Sky to help, just to partner with you, guess what happens? They know somebody that knows somebody, and then Jack Black sees the message. I have had this kind of thing happen over and over again with being open to inviting participation. Having people think through with you, how do we be creative in raising money right now? How do we be creative in delivering our programs right now? Got a few more examples before we'll open it up for Q&A. So this one, please just steal it. Use it in your own way. You'll meet the CDC guidelines while reinforcing a positive mindset. What are you grateful for? The words are, when you're washing your hands, take the 20 seconds to think of 3 things you're grateful for and put your logo in there. Love it. For canceled events, use the same graphics. Make a PDF out of them, post them, talk about them, have the people in the picture say why they're my gift, not my attendance anymore, will give more people a voice from this day forward. This is from Pangea World Theater here in the Twin Cities. I have a friend here that lives in Eden Prairie, where I live, and she is on the board of the Florence Academy of Art. Florence, Italy in and of itself has gone through horrible difficulties during the pandemic. This is Daniel Graves, the founder of the Florence Academy of Art, and they started a contest called A View from Your Room. They invited artists from anywhere in the world to submit. The contest is over, just so you know. What are you painting? What are you drawing? What's the view from your room that you look out and see? And when they are able to, winners of this contest, a couple of them in different categories, will get to come to visit the Florence Academy of Art free of charge in Florence, Italy. How cool is that? One of the best visuals of a money story comes from the California Symphony. They told us what $50 will do, what $500 will do, what $2,500 will do. $10,000 pays for tuition for 10 sound mind students for a whole semester, all the way on up to $20,000. And they have a match for up to $250,000. This was a campaign from a few years ago. I wrote about this in a blog that I posted a while back. But the truth is, this was such, let me clear my throat so I don't cough in your ear. Hang on for a second. If I can mute myself. How can I mute myself? Well, can't see how to do it. So I'm just going to do it. Sorry. They raised more money through this campaign because they were so clear that the Chronicle of Philanthropy, the big publication that we all aspire to be highlighted in, wrote about their campaign. This is not an arts example, but it can very well be your welcome email if someone signs up to receive your e-news. So who is the story about in this welcome email? Lori, thank you again for signing up to be a part of our online community. And I want you to type in to the chat box, who is this story about? Lori, thank you for signing up. Did you know you don't have to wait for our online monthly newsletter to get your Grand Canyon fix? Join thousands of individuals on our social media. Each week we feature content from our most important audience, you. Who is this message about? Who is the story? Yeah. It's about the person who opens it. Does your, if I sign up for your e-news on your website, if you have that ability, do I get a welcome email? This didn't come the day I signed up. It came a few days later, but someone made sure that it was to me and that it was warm. And this is a canned email that they send to everyone. You don't have to create a new one for everyone. But now I'm getting weekly messages from the Grand Canyon folks and I'm being inspired. I'm inviting you to be a part of the disruptive innovation time that we're in. Disruption innovation is either fear-filled or it can be inspirational. It comes from a man named Clayton Christensen, who talked about companies that disrupt, like Uber, like the DoorDash people that I used last night for dinner. You are change agents already as artists. You take risks, but let your communication take risks right now. Be forward thinking, plan for contingencies, choose new donor engagement strategies, new ways. You're already deciding how to provide your core programs and services, and allow technology to challenge the status quo. This I received in my inbox yesterday from the American Craft Council here based in Minneapolis. It is their staff with signs on their Zoom recordings saying, "We are here for our artists and our community during this time. Thanks to our supporters who keep us going." I love it. I read every word. The first sentence was, "Dear Lori, I hope this message finds you and your family well." And then it went on to tell me some ways I can participate with the Craft Council, even if they're not able to be open for business right now. Moo is an Asian American theater here in St. Paul. They have Friday happy hours called Mootini's, Mootini Hour. And a couple of weeks ago, they had George Takai and some other special artists. They pop into my email every week with some cool, fun thing they're doing. And I can go back and watch the Mootini Hours. They have them on a Facebook page or they have them on a YouTube page, actually. Matthews Opera House and Art Center, I don't know if you're on, but I know you're registered. I love what you did. I absolutely encourage all of you to go to their Facebook page and see what they did for Giving Tuesday, now the May 5th event. We could, as donors, go pick the seat that we wanted to purchase for the virtual fundraising event that they had, and then our picture would go on the seats that we purchased. Now, what I will say, the only thing about this that I would recommend is that you tag the donors on your posts and you thank the donors that are giving and or anybody that's connected to us and your board members so that those can go even more virtual. Upstream Arts, I've said their name so many times. Go look at them and see what they're doing. The founder, Matt Guidry, started a blog during this time, and I love in small moments to find some comfort. It's there. They have brought all of their programming online, and it's not easy to do, and so they're fundraising for it. Their virtual studios, their studio access, and they're getting feedback, and they're sharing the feedback that they're hearing from the teachers that are using it. I had a client, Heart of Dance, have a virtual event last Tuesday because they had their money story in the pre-messages that went out to promote the event. Here's what it takes to do our work. And it's basically $84 a student, but the gap we have is $168,000 by June 30th. People knew to give whether they attended the event live or not. They raised $30,000 before the event. They have 5 staff, folks. They are very small. Their budget is less than $500,000. The event raised about another, I think, close to 20 or so, and they've received another 20 or so after the event, maybe even up to 30. They made sure to thank quickly. So they recorded the event. Some parts of it were pre-recorded, some parts of it were not, but they thanked quickly. Within a half hour of the event being over, I could watch the whole event myself again or share it with someone else. So pivot fundraising, it's about being prepared for constant change, assuming positive intent, communicating clearly, dispelling myths, listening. So what is it that you need to do? You have to think about, what do we want people to feel about us right now? So how do we cause them to feel that? Whoops, I'll go back. What do we want them to do? And by when do we want them to do it? And then just a reminder of your checklist. Thank, check in, share mission moments and money stories, provide options for people to support you, even if it's just to say thank you for what you're doing. So would you type in, and I'd like to hear from as many of you as possible, what did you learn, if anything, hopefully something, and what will you do differently? And if you would, tell me, what will you do differently by when? Because that's the key, right? By when? While you are typing in, I'll wait for a couple of answers to come in. Just a reminder, I'm on social media. I do not post every day, but I post a couple of times a week, and I watch you all on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. There are a number of free resources to download on my site. I have worksheets and ebooks, and I like to help, and I like to help in any way I can. So what have we got here? I will tell you what people are saying that they learned and what they're going to do. Messaging is so important. Yes, it is. Need to carefully craft the message. Tag folks in social media. Please, if you do something cool, please tag me. I want to go see it. I'm at Jacobwith on Twitter. I should be at Jacobwith on Facebook as well. Let's see what else. Focus on individual donors. Be positive. Positive language. Focus and communicate to our sponsors and our donors. Need to share with the team and brainstorm. So what we decide what we're going to do. Update our donor communications. Change the language. Be a source of calm. Positive language does help us feel something different. We'll start communicating with donors by next week after our board meeting. You can start tomorrow. You can just schedule 1 minute to thank a donor and say, hey, I wanted to report to the board how you're doing when we set a plan next week to thank donors. So call someone tomorrow. Tell my story and tell it often. Good. Thank you, Paul. Change in strategy without a change in vision. Yes. Inspiring language, increase technology skills emphasized, encourage board members to actively call donors, participate. The reminders that the myths may be in our own minds. Oh, that's really great. Thank you, Rena. You language, learn the language that is more inspiring toward the donor. So the reality is it's our choices that show us what we truly are, far more than our abilities. If you're scared to have a virtual event, just do one and invite 10 people. What I will tell you about virtual events, the folks at Heart of Dance, their fundraising event, they had 300 people register, 165 on live. Not everybody attends. So you have to record it to send it to them later. You want to make sure to know people will give. Over half the people that were on live gave the day of the event. Don't hibernate. Love it, Susan. Thank you. Use our creative juices to retell our story in a more personal and newly addressed way. Ah, love it, love it, love it. Darlene says, your comments feel like the sun coming into a window. Everyone, your comments are awesome. We have a virtual event on June 14th, and we'll change our donate button on that event to another button that will give a more powerful message. Well, Janet, whatever organization you're with, please invite me to your virtual event. If I can, I would like to attend. If I can't, I would like to see the replay of it. So let's go to questions. Let me stop sharing for just a moment. Let's see what we've got. We've got a few. So for small organizations that haven't developed donors yet, how do you start? How do you get those first donors? So tell me a little bit more, if you can, about who you are. And you can do that in the chat box. But the reality is you already have donors. You have volunteers. You have artists, probably. You have people who listen to you tell your vision of your organization all the time, whenever you're talking about it. So now it's to add in your money story. What would it take to do one thing? What would it take to, and tell me what that thing is. Do you want to have an event? Do you want to have a showing? Do you want to support artists in the community? Is it, I don't know. But explain to us what it takes to do that financially. And that you dream of the day when you can pay staff. It'll take us, looks like about $100,000, which we actually have to practice saying out loud in front of the mirror because we're so scared to say that number out loud. But it'll take us eventually $100,000 to be a fully funded organization. So let's see, hopefully that helps. Those first donors are people that you invite to give their time, their talent, their stuff, and you can say, if you have the ability, to support us financially. Because really what we know is we're giving you an opportunity to build and create the community that you want to live in. Okay, number one from Ina. Number two, especially while we're physically distancing and phone access can be difficult due to cell phone and filtering by receivers. So calling is okay. Texting is okay. If you don't have, yeah, go ahead, Jeremy, or Andrew, jump in. Go ahead and jump in, Andrew, if you want to come off mute.
Nope, go ahead. Sorry, just trying to do some behind the scenes stuff here. Sorry.
Oh, okay, got it. So how do you get the contact information to begin with? So if you've got email addresses for folks, part of what you want to do is make sure that you are emailing and or sending that letter to them right away to thank them. Personal notes, if that's what you're using. And then you can find me on social media sometimes. And if you're finding me on social media, you can instant message me or personal message me and say, hey, we've got some information we want to share with you, but I'd love to get your advice on, do you have a text? Do you have a number that you like to receive texts at? Promise I won't abuse it. Or what's your phone number so we can, our board is doing a thank-a-thon. And I know you don't necessarily need to be thanked, but we want to thank everyone, and we're implementing a practice of saying thank you out loud to everyone who gives to us. So you have to collect them. And then I ask people's phone numbers when I have them register for things. So you have to ask for the number at the beginning. And if you don't have it, you have to do the catch-up work at the end. Hopefully that helps a little bit, Ina. Okay, Bob, small Midwestern blue collar city of 15,000 with about 25% immigrants. Concert Association depends on annual subscriber sales. Board members are mostly high-risk age. Members are afraid to donate now and attend concerts in the fall. Yes. My advice is, what can you be doing musically right now? Watch the YouTube videos from John Krasinski and his Sunday night show, Some Good News. He is inviting people to be on. He is bringing named people in. He's bringing people no one would ever know in, and having them talk, having them perform. I would have a conference call. If you can have phone service, use freeconference.com and just have a Q&A about what is happening with your fall season, and that you are likely going to have it be pre-recorded. Maybe someone does a piece at home and that gets to be put up on Facebook or video, YouTube. Be creative about what you're doing. Let me see who I know out in the community, and if you will reach out to me directly, Bob. I know that there's some groups that are small that are holding concerts virtually. And right now, it's going to be a while before we can gather in groups where people feel healthy. So every answer, put it on the whiteboard and do those brainstorms with kids, with families. Have those brainstorm conversations be on Facebook, on social media, on teleconference, on Zoom, and get input from your community on how you could social distance and still have a fall concert series. Hopefully that helps. We'll get you started there. Who else? Who else would like to ask a question?
Lori, while we're waiting for some more questions to come in, one that came up in the chat earlier from Linda A was she was asking, they struggle with capturing those quality images and videos for those inspiring the inspiring message purposes. Do you have any tips or tricks or kind of best practices on that?
Yes, I do. Yesterday I did a webinar called The Power of Visual Storytelling, and one of the most important things to know is it doesn't have to be perfect. You notice some of the pictures that I shared were a little blurry. Well, the screen grab tool that I had was grabbing from a moving video. I forgot to stop the video, so they were blurry, but you still got the point. Authentic communication is what cuts through the clutter. Well, I use stock photo a bit in my sessions. I also use a lot of images that are real. I use kind of, I don't know, what I would call sort of granular, homespun images that make the point. So invite your community to take pictures and then upload them to a Google Drive folder or a Dropbox folder. This video was taken by their 12-year-old daughter on her iPhone. I think her mom's iPhone probably. So it was really not high tech, folks. Quality is not what we're looking for. It's the quality of the message that's inside it or the words that you put with it.
To jump in for just a second, we've had some good luck with that, and some other organizations with using iPhone video that looks a little bit worse but feels more authentic. Then they know you're in the room doing this. You're not with a big production company. It doesn't feel staged. So I think sometimes that can almost be better in a way.
Absolutely. I think it's better than anything to be real. And it is time, I think, to wrap up. People know how to find me on social media. I'm a bit of a phone person. I really, truly am a bit of a phone person. So call, leave a message, text. If you want to get my cell phone number, you have to ask for it, though. The phone number on my website is my office line. Thank you to Andrew. Thank you to everyone who's here today. I love the work you do, whether I've seen it up close and personal or just on your social media posts and your website. Jim and Sherry, thank you for how you lead this organization alongside Andrew, and everyone just stay safe and healthy. And I hope to see you in person or again on Zoom in the fall.
Great. Well, thank you again so much, Lori. We really appreciate you taking the time today and for joining us when we could have been in person, but at least we're here together now. And we just want to say thank you so much for your willingness to come on. I know there's been, Sherry and I have been messaging back and forth and just saying how both informative and calming you've been as a presence.
Oh,
and so it's
good.
been really, really helpful for us as well. One thing I did want to quick share with the group is that we will have a new session that we've just announced, kind of some case studies of how some of the organizations in South Dakota have been adapting and moving forward. So we'll be joined by Linda Anderson from the Black Hills Playhouse. Hi, Linda. I saw you were on the session earlier. Nancy Halverson from Levitt at the Falls, and then Jennifer Teisinger from the South Dakota Symphony. 3 organizations that have had to deal with the pandemic in very different ways and find ways to move forward. So hopefully we can all learn together with them on Thursday, June 4th. And then in the meantime, please reach out to any of us at Art South Dakota. We'll be sharing this archived session via email as well as on our webinars page, and we'll be posting all of the links that Lori referenced. And just thank you for doing everything you do to help create a community in South Dakota that is creative and constantly moving forward, even in very challenging times. So thank you again, Lori. Thank you, Jim and Sherry, for being with us as well. And thank you all of the attendees. We really appreciate you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lori.